Have you ever noticed how Europe often seems to be the first to regulate new technology, while places like the US or China seem to race ahead with innovation? You see a new app, a new AI, and almost immediately, you hear about a new EU rule for it. It might look like Europe is just slow or even anti-innovation. But what if I told you this regulate first, innovate second approach is actually a deliberate, long-term strategy? What if it's not about slowing down, but about building a better, safer future for everyone? Let's unpack this. The core idea is simple: guardrails first, speed second. Think of it like building a racetrack. You wouldn't just tell drivers to go as fast as they can on an open field. You'd first design the track, build safety barriers, and establish clear rules. That's what Europe is doing with technology. They're not trying to stop the race. They're trying to make sure it's run safely and fairly. This philosophy is deeply rooted in European history and values. After centuries of turbulence, there's a strong cultural emphasis on social welfare, consumer protection, and what's known as the precautionary principle. This principle essentially says, if an action or policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or the environment, in the absence of scientific consensus that the action is harmless, the burden of proof that it is not harmful falls on those taking the action. In simpler terms, it's better to be safe than sorry. This is a stark contrast to the move fast and break things mantra that famously came out of Silicon Valley. That approach prioritizes rapid growth and disruption, often dealing with the negative consequences later. We've seen the results: data privacy scandals, the spread of misinformation, and gig economy models that challenge traditional worker rights. Europe looks at these issues and says, let's try to prevent the problems before they become crises. Take the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. When it was introduced, many companies complained it was a huge burden. But now it's become the global gold standard for data privacy. Countries and even states like California have created their own versions based on it. By setting the rules early, Europe didn't just protect its citizens. It ended up shaping the global conversation around data rights. We're seeing the exact same pattern play out with artificial intelligence. While some countries are in an all-out race to develop the most powerful AI, the EU was the first to propose a comprehensive legal framework, the AI Act. This act isn't about banning AI, it's about categorizing it based on risk. High-risk applications, like those used in critical infrastructure or law enforcement, will face strict requirements for transparency, accuracy, and human oversight. Low-risk applications, like spam filters or video game AIs, will have minimal regulation. It's a nuanced, risk-based approach. The goal is to foster what they call trustworthy AI. The logic is that people will be more willing to adopt and embrace new technologies if they trust that there are safety nets in place. This trust, in the long run, could actually accelerate innovation by creating a more stable and predictable market. Critics often argue that this heavy-handed regulation stifles innovation. They point out that most of the world's tech giants aren't European, and that's a valid point. There's a real risk that overly burdensome rules could make it harder for small European startups to compete with giant American and Chinese firms. It can be expensive and time-consuming to comply with complex regulations, creating a barrier to entry. The EU is aware of this, and they often try to build in support for small and medium-sized enterprises, but it remains a significant challenge. The question is whether the trade-off is worth it. Does the benefit of long-term safety and public trust outweigh the cost of potentially slower short-term growth? Europe is betting that it does. This regulatory leadership also gives Europe a unique kind of global influence, often called the Brussels effect, because the EU is such a massive and wealthy single market. Any company that wants to do business there has to comply with its rules. Instead of creating different product versions for different regions, it's often easier for multinational corporations to just adopt the EU standard for their products globally. So when Europe sets a high bar for environmental protection, product safety, or digital privacy, That standard often ripples outwards and gets adopted around the world, whether through formal laws or just as a new industry norm. Europe effectively exports its regulations and, by extension, its values. Think about the products you use every day. The USB-C charger that will soon be standard on all new phones in Europe? That's the Brussels effect. The cookie consent banners you see on almost every website? That's a result of EU privacy rules. By acting first, Europe sets the terms of the debate. It defines what good looks like for a new technology. While other regions might innovate the technology itself, Europe innovates the rules that govern it. It's a different kind of innovation, social and regulatory innovation, but it's innovation nonetheless. So, is Europe's approach right? It's not a simple yes or no. The Move Fast model has given us incredible technological advancements at an unprecedented speed. It creates dynamic, competitive markets that push the boundaries of what's possible. But it also comes with significant social costs that we are only now beginning to fully understand. The European guardrails first model aims for a more sustainable, human-centric path. It might be slower to get off the starting line, but the hope is that it will lead to a more resilient and equitable technological society in the long run. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The idea is that by carefully building the track, setting the rules, and prioritizing the safety of the drivers, you don't just get a faster race. You get a better one where more people can participate and everyone reaches the finish line safely. Ultimately, the world probably needs both approaches. We need the bold dreamers who push the limits, and we need the cautious architects who ensure the foundation is solid. The tension between these two philosophies is what will continue to shape our digital world. So next time you hear about a new EU regulation and think it's just more red tape, remember the racetrack. It's not about stopping the cars. It's about making sure the race is worth running for everyone. What do you think? Is Europe's cautious approach the smart play, or is it holding back progress? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. See you next time.